I'm Pat Dooris. Welcome to The Story. Tonight we're focusing on the system or lack of systems in Oregon's most populated county for dealing with mental health. It's an urgent crisis in many parts of our state, but you see mental illness in many of the people living on the streets of Portland and in Multnomah County. And tonight we're taking a deep dive with a medical doctor who's also a county politician and who has some definite ideas on what's wrong and how it should be fixed. That's our big story tonight. Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Meieran is a lawyer and a medical doctor and a politician, so there's a lot of brain power there. When she steps forward to dissect the way that Multnomah County is and is not helping those with addictions and mental illness, well, we think it's worth paying attention. I had the chance to sit down with her late last week to talk about her request to Governor Kotek to bring in state resources to help untangle Multnomah County's mess.
I've sent out a desperate call for help. So just taking a step back, counties, under the structure we have now in our state, counties are the local mental health authorities. There's kind of local control over what we do with mental health and addiction.
As opposed to some states where it's top down from the state.
Exactly.
And it's all congruent throughout the state because of that.
Exactly. Exactly, and Massachusetts is a great example of that.
Yeah. But in Oregon, every county can run it a little differently if they see that as being the best way.
Yep. And I personally think that that's a great approach. I believe in local control, actually, over these sorts of things, so long as there's some centralization and someone overseeing all of these with a larger plan to ensure they fit together. So we need both of those things, leadership at the state and coordination and functioning counties that are able to make the systems work. And for many years, we've had neither. I mean, we've had neither for longer than many people can remember, or as long as. So for decades, there hasn't been a prioritization or investment at the state level. There's been deinstitutionalization with the belief that we should invest in our local communities. That's where we should be providing mental health services. And if we do that, people will not need that kind of institutionalization.
Which is a great talking point.
Great talking point, and probably true. The problem is that there was not the community investment, so communities were starved of the ability to provide mental health services, and places like, say, Multnomah County, we didn't do it right even with the money we did have. So it's a combination. If we had systems that function in our local communities and deinstitutionalization, but the investment in the local, we could have our system could work. It is possible. We've seen examples where it works, but Oregon in general has had such horrible behavioral health leadership. Behavioral health is addictions and mental illness. You hear that term. A lot of people don't know what it is, but under Kate Brown's leadership at the Oregon Health Authority, I've called it verging on the criminal incompetence. So there's no leadership at the state for many years, but that's not an excuse for the counties, who are the local mental health authorities, to not do their jobs.
By the way, if you don't know, Kate Brown was the governor during the time Commissioner Meieran is referring to, and I'm sure that she would no doubt disagree with the characterization. Brown did tell me during our exit interview when she was done being governor that while deinstitutionalization did happen, it is correct that state money did not go to help the local communities at the same time, although that did happen before she was governor. All right, back to Sharon Meieran. She said that some counties in Oregon are actually running their local mental health authority with great skill. She pointed to Washington and Clackamas and Lane counties, each as examples of how behavioral health can be coordinated and done right. She thought her experience in the ER would help guide Multnomah County.
And so I thought, having seen this and where we could potentially intervene, the county's the local mental health authority. I'll go use that expertise there. And then got to the county, goes back to a little of what we were talking about earlier, and recognizing, oh my gosh, there's not a system in place at all. Like, what are we doing? And so that's when I started work to do the gaps, sort of the gaps analysis, but deeper than that, about how our system functions, what we don't have, what we need. Hired an organization outside of Multnomah County to do it, and they made great recommendations, and the next step of that was to create a plan based on this 70-ish recommendations, some big, some small. I mean, they said biggest one is there's no system, like there's no shared vision, there's no shared understanding, and so got a group together of leaders in the community and peers, people with lived experience, and said, okay, these are people I've known from working for over a decade in the system itself and as an advocate. These people are doers, and we can change the system. So let's create this, what a system should look like. Had a catchy name. It was Blueprint for Better Behavioral Health. Analyze, align, and act. All that. Alliteration. And the goal was action, because all of us have sat on more committees and task forces than you can even think about. So we were doing that work, created actually even the matrix of how, like, prioritizing things, putting them together, creating the plan Multnomah County is required to have. And then, COVID hit. And then some other work started, and the chair decided not to support that work anymore.
Support your work.
My work. Not support my work. And it all shifted.
Now, during that time, the county chair was Deborah Kafori, but after her term was over, she left office. And in the November 2022 general election, Jessica Vega Peterson beat Sharon Meieran in the race for county chair by nearly 27,000 votes.
With a new chair, I was hopeful that we could actually sort of pick that up, because we're term limited. I have 2 years left on the board to be able, now 1 year, to be able to work on those mental health systems. And she was not interested. And I've provided the information, the background, the people involved, who are all people that are involved in this work, the state level leaders. And she said that she would be coming up with a strategic plan around behavioral health. Unfortunately, that has not come to pass. We've had turnover. I think now it's been, since she's been there for a year, 3 behavioral health leaders. There's been no prioritization of hiring we still don't have a behavioral health director for the local mental health authority. There has been no prioritization of that. It's one of the biggest crises facing our county, affecting everything we do, homelessness, all of it. And we don't even have leadership. I don't even know where to go to ask a question about behavioral health in the county. And I used to be very tied into the people doing the work. I've been on different task forces, committees, because they're all, saying, oh, we don't have a thing. And they come up with, let's put in a shelter, let's put in a treatment center here. Let's do this 16-bed thing there. Let's invest in this one shiny object. No one's putting the pieces together into a plan, and we see the fallout, and it's killing people, and it's harming people, and it's kids, it's elders, it's people living outside, it's people living inside, it's everyone. And I think what forced it, I tried last year, we had a new leader, I'm like, okay, we can get this together, and saw complete abdication of responsibility for this. And it's only gotten worse. Fentanyl crisis, I thought it was a crisis. Thought we're doing it's an emergency. Not sure what we're doing there.
Now, as a county commissioner, Sharon Meieran has actually surprisingly little power compared to the county chair for Multnomah County. But one thing she can do is use her position to shine a bright light on areas that she thinks you need to know about. And that's what she's doing here.
It's too much. It is failed. The county, Multnomah County right now, does not have the ability to get its act together, create a plan, and implement it. It doesn't have the relationships or trust in the community of leaders. It is not able to do that. And given that the local mental health authority responsibility is based in statute, and it's a state mandated allocation of authority. It's like I went to the governor, and I know she cares, and I know her wife is deeply involved. She's actually a mental health care provider and is doing work herself. And I know she gets it. She's trying to do all the central city work and give attention to this area and this region. And I just said, this is the thing. Multnomah County needs to succeed for the state to succeed. Everywhere else, they're actually starting to get their acts together. Counties are doing great work. We need Multnomah County to work, and it's not going to happen just with the system we have. So I didn't ask the state to take it over, but I asked the state to intercede and figure out what's the fix.
All right, so what is the fix? I emailed the governor's office to ask what's happening with all that. They told me that actually the Oregon Health Authority responded to Commissioner Meieran, and they asked the OHA to answer my questions. But the OHA has not done that. Okay, so what do you think about Commissioner Meieran asking the state to step in and go in public with all her concerns here? Did anything she talked about during the interview surprise you? Let us know, will you? You could email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090. You know, we ask for your comments every night, and you do not disappoint. Last night you had plenty to say, actually Friday, following our previous segment with Commissioner Meieran on Friday night. We went in depth on the controversy surrounding Multnomah County closing the warming shelters during our last winter blast. It left at least 1,000 people out in the elements as the temperatures hung between 25 and 30 degrees with snow and ice still covering much of the ground. Commissioner Meieran told me that the decision to close the shelters was made by County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson and the county's Chief Operating Officer, Serena Cruz. Here's a voicemail from someone who used to live in Portland but moved across the Columbia to Vancouver.
I am continuing to be astonished by their Royal Majesties Jessica and Serena, especially after this latest mess involving the shelters. But I'm even more astonished that Portlanders put up with this, that Multnomah County people put up with this. There is no reason for tolerating the arrogance and the incompetence.
And a viewer named Kay wrote to us to say something needs to happen to keep this from happening again. But that's Portland. Lack of rules, lack of action, lack of results. And because it's so bad, any rules, action, and results they have made go unnoticed, or it isn't enough. There are too many holes in the bucket to make a difference when they are filling it drop by drop.
I think we're going to have a meeting here in a week or two, and everybody that was involved in it should be coming for this meeting. What they do is bring a cardboard box. Some of them will be leaving with that cardboard box for all of their personal possessions, and some won't. But we have to have somebody accountable, and it's time the cardboard box gets filled by some of them top officials.
All right, thank you for that. Also, Jan wondered about the role of another county agency. Well, I personally believe that the county leadership really bears the blame for this stunning fiasco. I'm left scratching my head as to the role of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. Where were they in all this? Reading magazines? Playing cards? The cooperation between city and county was an utter failure. Joint Office of nothing. And Kelly chimed in with a bit of optimism. I'm sure speaking out in interviews like these probably makes Commissioner Meieran's job more challenging. I certainly appreciate her willingness to share her perspective. It gives me hope that we can turn things around in Portland and Multnomah County. But we also heard from Lily, who feels Commissioner Meieran should not be immune to criticism. I wonder if she has any answers or insights into why she's been so ineffective in her role over the years. In her second term, doesn't she feel some sense of responsibility for the ongoing problems with housing and safety for the unhoused? It seems like she wants to point out flaws, yet is unwilling to collaborate and work towards solutions. Fair point. Thanks for all your comments over the weekend. We really do read them all, and we love them because you help give all of us a better understanding of the issues, and we get a better understanding of how many of you see these issues that are facing our community. Coming up next on The Story, some good news on this Monday night. The Eugene weekly newspaper that shut down because an employee allegedly embezzled the company broke. Well, it's making a comeback. We talked with the editor today about how much money they've been able to raise and where many of those donations came from. That's coming up next when The Story returns. Now let's get to an update on a story we brought to you earlier this month, and we have good news. These red boxes in Eugene have been empty since mid-December, but that's going to change soon. The Eugene weekly paper had to lay off its entire staff just 3 days before Christmas because an employee had allegedly embezzled the company dry to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. But through fundraising efforts and the kindness of strangers, a new Eugene weekly will be printed and available for free, as always, on Thursdays starting February 8th.
People just really rose up and responded and contributed, and local businesses and artists did fundraisers, and we've raised, to the best of my knowledge, about $150,000. And with that much support coming in, we have to print the paper. We have to get going again. So the challenge is going to be staying going for the foreseeable future and making sure that we have a sustainable business model. But yeah, we have to do it.
You can just kind of feel the disbelief and excitement in her voice there. The lull between December 21st and the last printed edition now is rare. Eugene Weekly had not missed a printed weekly edition in over 2 decades. So when we caught up with the editor, Camelia Mortensen, today, the reality that the paper is coming back was still sinking in.
I am so happy and so tired and so happy all at the same time. And nervous because I really want this to work, and I really want to be able to get, we're going to start off with kind of a skeleton crew. I want to get staffers back on. I want to get freelancers paid. So yeah, it's sort of this, it's that feeling you get. I don't want to say feeling you get before you jump off a cliff, because that's a terrible idea. But it's a feeling you get before you I guess, jump off the high dive, where you're like, this is going to be amazing. And my heart's in my mouth.
The paper hired a forensic accountant to go through the books to figure out exactly how much was stolen. The Eugene Police Department is also investigating. But this little success story is thanks to people not only in the Eugene area, but all across the country. Here's the editor's message to those of you who donated to get them back to where they are today.
Thank you so freaking much. But yeah, I mean, people from New York City, from Iowa, they all contributed, folks from up in Portland. And it was anything from large and small. Like, people were sending like checks for $5 to keep us going. And like, when someone sends you a check for $5, that's all they have to send. And just so thankful for all that support. And yeah, that we have to put a paper back into folks' hands and make it worthwhile.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations. Coming up next on The Story, we're digging for old. We're 1 week away from Oregon's short legislative session getting underway. So we thought, you know what, let's poke around the Historical Society's collection related to that. Well, one thing led to another, and we ended up finding a story of a plant species that's found in Oregon and nowhere else in the world. We'll explain how that's all connected when The Story returns. Ah, yes, Monday night. So we're digging for old. I love these. Producer Colton writes these up. He's a history nerd. Love it. Tonight's Digging for Old took us on an odd journey, but the final destination yielded something that can only be found in Oregon. We started by heading to the Oregon Historical Society's online collection. Since Oregon's legislative session is a week from today, we searched the word session, hoping to find something in that vein. But with over 300 results, we were kind of swamped. We soon found ourselves looking at this 1940s smoking jacket from Meyer and Frank. It only popped up because the description had the word possession in there. The jacket belonged to a couple named John and Lila Leach. John ran the Phoenix Pharmacy on Foster Avenue in Portland, and his wife Lila was a botanist. So we started digging into them. Turns out they spent 9 summers in the late 1920s and 30s exploring the Siskiyou Mountains of Curry County in southwestern Oregon. And Lila is credited with discovering at least 5 new plant species, including this one, Kalmiopsis leachiana, a pink-flowered shrub. It is only found in that part of the state and nowhere else on the planet. Isn't that amazing? Beautiful. Hence the name of the wilderness area there, Kalmiopsis. Oh boy, don't email. I know I messed that one up. It's a wilderness in the Klamath Mountains. If the Leach name sounds familiar to Portlanders, well, it's because Lila and John's home and garden in southeast Portland was left to the city after they died, and it's now home to the Leach Botanical Garden, which is open to the public. You can check it out near Southeast 122nd and Foster. It's beautiful, as you can see, and worth going to. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our collective story, that never ends. It's a story we love to tell here with your help. The good stuff is coming your way next. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night, 6:30.